Oda, what are you doing? Why are you treating the Barbell fan base this poorly, Oda? Why? What have we done to you? Brother, week after week after week, we have coped, we have hoped, we've prayed that Barbell would get just one panel. Captain John, multiple panels. Kyowa, we saw him fight apparently Marco's dad. Marco's dad is here. Gilbestar has Perona's Devil Fruit. Ganzui, multiple panels using the Bamu Bama no Mi. Brother, where is Barbell? In this chapter, we get pretty much an update on everybody except for him. Even Strusen. I forgot he was on the island. Even Strusen got something, brother. What is going on? Liking Barbell started off for me as a joke. Do I really like Barbell? Not that much, you know? On a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably like a 7, which is still pretty high. But now I'm like genuinely curious. Like, wait, where is he? You know, where is the father of the sea? Because out of all of the Rocks pirates, when it comes to who possibly could be the most relevant current time, it would be Barbell. His connection to Otohime, King Neptune, the Mermaid Princess, the missing Rhode Island, Fishman Island poneglyph. Barbell. Where could he possibly be? And you cannot tell me that Oda is saving the best for last because God Valley is almost wrapped up. Rocks has been defeated. The Roger and Rocks pirates are pretty much off the island. Dragon off the island. Imu off the island. Is Barbell here fighting the Holy Knights? Is that why we haven't seen him? I don't know. Barbell, man, I just have no clue where it could have gone. I know, like I said, it started as a joke, but now I'm genuinely curious. Watch us end this flashback with no Barbell updates. We might just get an SPS question about this guy at this point. But besides the point, welcome back in, you guys. We got another chapter of One Piece here today. It's a great time to be a One Piece fan because we actually got the full Rocks D Xebec versus Garp and Roger fight here. So, before we get into all that, we do have to kick things off with the cover page, and we got another reader-requested cover. Again, always got to reiterate this, it'll probably be 20 more weeks until we start the next cover page story. So here, this week, we got, a request by Machi and Takeshi, and they wanted Beppo peacefully sleeping using Zeus as a pillow. Well, Oda gave us a little bit more than just that, because Oda added in Trafalgar D Water Law into the mix. He said, Beppo and Zeus? I can do you one better. Let me just give Law the screen time. Actually, Law's front and center. You know, you could have fooled me. I didn't even know Beppo was here, brother. It's so funny, especially since the Law memes have been popping off recently saying, oh, Law made up his backstory to make us feel bad. And oh, is Law even a real D? Seeing Law being shoehorned into the cover page when the reader did not request him, funny stuff. It's comedy gold. It makes me wonder, especially with last week's cover page where, you know, the rabbit was holding a clock. I was like, wait, does Oda have Twitter? You know, is somebody at Oda's team telling him about this? Like, what's going on here? One thing I do want to point out with the cover request is that we actually see 3 birds up in the foreground. And I think that's pretty cool because it does remind me of the reader request we got about Dofi years and years back, where Doflamingo was nursing a baby bird, and it looks to be the same bird species, maybe even the same bird. I thought that was a pretty cool tie-in, right? You can't have Law without Doflamingo, and I kind of wonder if one day they'll ever meet up again. Because we are more or less expecting an Impel Down breakout in the future, and if that happens, of course, Law and Doflamingo will be an iconic matchup that we could get yet again. So, on to the actual chapter now. We see that Garp is confirmed without a shadow of a doubt to have the voice of all things. Of course, last week we could infer that, but here it is spelled out pretty much one for one. Garp says, hey, Roger, you hear that? And Roger says his words, the way he's acting, that look on his face. Nothing is adding up here. And of course, it is because he's also crying while he's fighting them, right? He's crying. You can hear the please kill me in the background. It is a sad sight to behold. All the attacks that Garp and Roger throw at Rocks He absolutely tanks. Garp hits him in the face. Rocks ends up standing his ground. He doesn't budge an inch. Roger goes in for a sword swing. Rocks counters it, and then he blows them both back with Conqueror's Haki. Or you could say like his sword attack or both, right? We do know that Rocks, when he was first introduced, it was like, oh, by the way, his sword attacks, they're like giant cannons, which still hasn't been explained. This is the first time we've seen him use that, and there's like actual Conqueror's Haki behind it. Because beforehand, it did look like an air cannon, but here we have it. He's possibly just combining both, and it is freaking epic. We see the sky split coming off of this damn clash. Everybody on the island is freaking out. They're saying, yo, we're gonna die. Like, we gotta get off this island ASAP. And that is when we get updates on some of the Rocks Pirate members. The first one is Kyowo, and he says, hey guys, let's steal a ship. Let's get the heck out of here. One of the guys behind him says, hey, what about Rocks' ship? Which I think they should steal. I mean, he's not making it off the island, and you're already betraying him. Why not take a ship too? But Kyowo says, hey, dumbass, no one is going back on that ship. You know, we're not leaving with Rocks. And it's kind of sad seeing this. Everybody just quickly abandoned their captain. And it's even more sad when you think about how long they've been with each other. Like, they've been with each other for at least 4 to 7 years, depending on who you're talking about. And this friendship crumbled apart over the course of a single day. And the craziest part is that most of the Rocks pirates don't even know what's happening with Rocks. Only Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom actually witnessed him getting Domi reversied and fighting against him. Everybody else just said, hey, Conqueror's Haki. I guess that's it. We're bouncing. What do you mean? Like, these guys have actually been together 4 times longer, at least, than the Straw Hats. And they're giving up on their captain just like that. These guys are fickle. And it's crazy just thinking about how much money they possibly made while being on his crew. So it's like, oh, like, Rocks D Xebec is our cash cow. Why not stick with him? Why not see at least what's happening with him? Oh yeah, this guy, he's planning on taking over the world. He knows about ancient weapons, the legendary devil fruits, Imu's existence. They didn't stick with him. That's crazy. These pirates, man, now I know why Kaido was so damn salty. Like, oh, pirates always betray you the minute things start looking bad. Brother, barely anything started looking bad so far, and they gave up. They don't even know what's happening to Rocks. Ah, oh, damn you, Shiki. Damn you, Silverax. That's my rant. I feel like this is a rant video, but it's not. I love it, but I just gotta vent my frustration on these damn pirates, man. What's interesting about Silverax saying, hey, let's steal a ship, is that I wonder what ship they're gonna steal. And the reason I bring that up specifically is because when we first got to God Valley, we saw the Marine slave ship, the ship that Kuma, Ivankov, and Genie were brought on. And that ship, one of the only ships in the series, mind you, was all black. Maybe when the anime gets here, it's going to be like purple or green. But in the manga, you know, black and white, it looks all black. And it's like, wait, is that a candidate for the man marked by flames? Which, I mean, hey, speaking of which, we don't know what happens to Kyowo. We don't know what happens to Barbell. So maybe one of those guys takes over the ship and they are the man marked by flames. Of course, still a very, you know, thin theory right now, just because we don't know the actual color. I feel like there's been many instances in One Piece where we see black and white and we're like, oh my god, it's black. And then you get the anime and it's like, oh my god, she's blonde? Like the Holy Knight girl, right? Everybody's like, oh, the black-haired Holy Knight girl, the black-haired Holy Knight girl. And then Toei gets there and like, oh, actually, guys, she's blonde and she's actually blue. Interesting, interesting. So now the next Rocks Pirate member we see is Shiki, the Golden Lion, and he agrees and he says, yep, the Rocks Pirates are history. And it's like, all right, Shiki, whatever, dude. Whatever, man. I'd be so pissed if I was Rocks. Now I get it. You know, remember the theories where it's like, oh, Blackbeard's going on the revenge tour. He beat Wang Ji. He beat Whitebeard. I kind of agree, Blackbeard. Maybe you should go after these guys. Hell, you could tell us that Shiki's dead because Blackbeard killed him off screen, and I'd be like, you know what? Fair game. These guys really abandoned Rocks without knowing what's even happening. They didn't even see the demon Rocks yet. They really just said, hey, we're out. They're looking for the first chance to escape. Oh, man. That's the camaraderie, man. It hurts my soul. It hurts my soul. So we cut over and we see Garp and Roger's fleet. They're like, hey, VA Garp, can you repeat that? And Garp says, I said, Get every survivor and Marine you can aboard the ship and cast off immediately. We see, I don't know who this is from Roger's crew. I feel like every time we look at their crew, it's like somebody new. The guy says, hey, Roger, what's going on? And Roger says, get underway the instant Rayleigh's group is aboard. Wait for me at sea. And what's cool about this shot, or panel, by the way, is that you can actually see Roger's egg in the background. We already knew he had that egg when he first arrived at Hachinosu, but here we're seeing it again, and it's like, brother, when is this egg gonna freaking hatch? So now, we cut back to Roger and Garp directly, and we see this really cool, like, double panel thing where they both say, I'll make it back for sure. Awesome freaking stuff. Garp, Roger, they throw off their jackets, and Garp's like, yo, I came here to catch both of you guys, but look at how everything panned out. Roger says, well, I only came for treasure and Shaki. Yo, Garp, do you want to call a temporary truce? Garp says, well, I can't say I'm happy about this, but we just cannot let this monster roam free. And what's funny is that you can actually see Roger tossing his straw hat to the side, which is something Luffy would never really do. Like, he'd give it to, like, a straw hat, saying, hey, you know, hold on to my hat, guys. But, yeah, Roger's just casually tossing his jacket away. So you know that after the battle is over, they're gonna, like, look around the island for his jacket and straw hat, because it's just so damn iconic. But now, moving on, we see that the fight has once again commenced. Rocks goes in for a crazy thrust. Garp jumps over him, grabs his leg. Roger slices him in the meanwhile. And while they're fighting him, they're talking too. Garp says, hey, this form, this curse, can't we undo it somehow? And what I found really cool about this is that Garp actually calls Domi Reversi a curse, which I think is very fitting, considering the fact that Imu is seemingly a magic user. You know, we don't know if Imu actually has a devil fruit or if they're actually utilizing black magic. So I think curse here is quite fitting. One thing this chapter definitely confirms though, and this might sound silly, but you know, back in Elbaf, we never really saw this happen yet. But we now know that playing the Reversi game might not be the solution to beating Domi Reversi. Because Reversi, the way it works is that, you know, you have two pieces surrounding one piece, so that piece becomes the other piece. We saw that with Tall Man on Elbaf, where he was surrounded by two Domi Reversi giants, and because he was in the middle, he got flipped into a demon, Reversi. But here, we have Garp and Roger surrounding Rocks, yet Rocks isn't flipping back over. So it does look like Imu is the only one allowed to play the game as of right now. I bet there'll be some sort of way to, you know, counteract this later, but as it stands, Garp and Roger do not have the time to actually figure this out, right? Rocks is just too damn dastardly. If this was just like a random guy, not that strong, yeah, they could play around with a bunch of different options, but because Rocks is a tank, because he's so powerful, if they diddle-daddle and they just do not take him seriously, they're gonna get cooked. They even acknowledge that here. So now, we cut back down over and we see the Roger Pirates. Rayleigh is still carrying Shaki, they're almost at the ship. And then we see that, you know, Scopper is teaming up with another former Empress. We got Gloriosa heading back onto the Oro Jackson alongside him. And it's pretty cool. Kind of nice seeing that both wings of the Pirate King have their own Pirate Empress. I don't think that Gloriosa likes Scopper like that, but just seeing the duo, it's kind of nice, right? After they drop the girls off at the Oro Jackson, Rayleigh and Scopper decide to turn around because they do think that Roger needs their help, which is correct. By the end of the chapter, just kind of skipping ahead for a little bit, by the end of the chapter, we see that Roger and Garp use their ultimate attack. But after they do that, they're going to be incapacitated. They will not be able to move, or at least that's what they're kind of, you know, assuming. So Rayleigh and Scopper showing back up, I think is beautiful because they could just carry both of those guys off the island, which I think makes a lot of sense. People might not like the notion of Rayleigh and Scopper saving Garp, but that is very much what happened in Alabasta. And, you know, One Piece is all about the parallels. In Alabasta, Luffy saw Smoker drowning and he said, hey, Zoro, you need to save Smokey. Like, we got to save this guy. And then they're like, but he's a Marine. And he's like, yeah, but he's my friend and we fought together, right? Like, he's that dude. So Zoro saved Smoker. And later, Smoker became the hero of Alabasta. Untrue title, but he was the hero of Alabasta. We could see the same thing here, where Gabon or Rayleigh, they're carrying Roger, and then Roger's like, hey, guys, save Garp, you know, like, I get that he's a Marine, but he's also a friend of mine, And then, of course, Garp gets saved, and then he later becomes hero of God Valley. I think the parallel is just right there. And, of course, you know, this could be why Garp later on owes Roger a favor, and he's like, hey, I'll take care of your kid. Yeah. Ace, don't worry about it, brother. This is even. One thing I really enjoy about Rayleigh and Scopper going back for them, by the way, is just the stark contrast with them and the Rocks Pirates. The Rocks Pirates were looking for any excuse to abandon their captain and crew, whereas the Roger Pirates are like, hey, you guys go ahead. I want to save this dude. Love that, love that. It just shows that the people you pick for your crew really matter. Yeah, Rocks' crew, I would argue, overall, stronger, but the cohesion is not there. The glue is not sticking, man. So the next group we see is Kaido and Big Mom, and they pretty much just echo what we already know. Big Mom's like, hey, you owe me a lifelong debt. Kaido's like, ah, ha, 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 ha. I took the fruit fair and square. And I kind of see Big Mom's point. People are saying Big Mom is a loser. They're like, oh, like, he doesn't owe you anything. But then again, I do think that Big Mom went easy on Kaido. I don't think she really fought for the fruit because it was him. Like, you gotta imagine, right? Kaido and Big Mom, it's like little brother, big sister. If it was anybody else, I do think that Big Mom would have killed him, or Big Mom would have fought hard for the devil fruit before Kaido ate it. But because it's him and because she did promise him a devil fruit, she's like, ah, whatever. Didn't want to give you that one, but take it, you brat. You owe me. So Kaido vows that he will form a crew based on brutality. All right, that's just so edgy, right? Imagining Kaido's age. I think he's like 16 or something here. He's like, yeah, violence is going to be the law. It's like, okay, dude. Big Mom says, hey, you're bold. Either way, you'll never be able to beat me. And then we got Streusen butting into the conversation saying, hey, Lin, wrap it up. You know, we gotta go. We already got the treasure. And what's funny about this whole thing is that we don't really see more devil fruits. I thought we would. Especially since Oda kind of retconned that. At first, we started God Valley through Kuma's eyes, and we saw 6 treasure chests, 6 potential devil fruits up on the stage. And then, current day, we got 9. And it's like, oh, like Oda, he added 3 more. So that's going to be big. We're going to see, you know, new devil fruits here that we wouldn't expect. But so far, we only still have the Azure Dragon Devil Fruit in the Papa no Mi. Oda hasn't really touched on these 7 other treasure chests yet. Unless they're just filled with treasure, we're just making the assumption that they're all filled with devil fruits. But yeah, will that ever matter? I hope so. Like maybe after God Valley, when they're all sailing away, we get like an update and they all have like 1 chest each. I think that'd be pretty cool. So the next people we see is, of course, Whitebeard and Polo Graham. Dude. I remember 3 or 2 weeks ago? Either way, couple chapters back, people were like, oh my god, this guy looks like Marco. Is it Marco's dad? I don't know, I gave him like the Seth Rogen laugh, but people were saying that. And I saw the haircut. And I was like, yeah, that does look like Marco. But then again, background One Piece characters, sometimes they look kind of silly, right? If you ever really pay attention to the background characters, yeah, they kind of get cursed. So I just thought it was a coincidence. But no, it was no coincidence at all. Polo Graham, Marco's father, is actually here. Bro, what? I would have never suspected that. I love it. You know, I love Polo Graham, captain of the Polo Pirates. He shows up in front of Whitebeard saying, hey, Newgate, I saw ya. That mountain that broke, I was you, man, wasn't it? Looks like your crew is breaking up. Why don't you hop on my ship and we join forces? Newgate, of course, because he's, you know, fresh off the Rocks Pirates, the biggest ego crew on the Blue Seas, he says, oh, like, buzz off, don't get in my way. But we do know that over time, Whitebeard does grow fond of him, so much so that Marco, Polo's son, actually joins his crew as the 1st Division commander. Amazing stuff. I do wonder, you know, when Whitebeard establishes his crew, does Polo actually become the 1st Division commander before Marco? Because that would be awesome, right? Like the father was the former 1st commander and now it's getting passed down to Polo. Kind of like how Odin was the 2nd Division commander and then later on it's Aces. I think that would be freaking sick. As far as Polo goes, I really did not expect him to be a pirate. I thought he would have been a Marine, given the fact that he was fighting Kyoto. And I've seen people saying, oh, but Sai, don't forget, a lot of pirate groups showed up at God Valley. And it's like, yeah, I get that. But let's be real, a lot of those dudes are fodder. We've never heard of them. If we got like, you know, a couple of pirate groups on the side, like one-off panels, I'd be like, oh yeah, of course, there's so many of these dudes. But Polo is genuinely the first outsider we've ever heard of. So I was genuinely shocked when they're like, yeah, by the way, the Polo Pirates are here. It's like, what? The Polo Pirates? They know about God Valley? That's crazy, man. So yeah, shouts to Polo. One thing I wish Oda did with this flashback, and this is like a personal aside, I wish he gave a lot of these guys bounties. Because let's be real, we're not going to spend a lot of time with Polo. We're not going to spend a lot of time with Barbell, Kyo, Shiki, or, you know, many of these dudes. So it's like, man, I wish he kind of just gave him like arbitrary bounties just for fun, right? Oh, here's Polo, captain of the Polo Pirates, 900 million. You know, it doesn't hurt the narrative. It's just a nice thing to look at and be like, oh, damn, like Marco's dad, he was kind of lit, right? Marco's dad's kind of awesome. Also, I just love that we're all assuming it's Marco's dad just because it looks like him and because his name's Polo, which I think is a fair assumption in One Piece, but it's just funny, you know, Oda could have easily given him the father of Marco thing underneath because he did that with Roger, Garp, and Rocks, right? Oh, here's Rocks, father of Blackbeard, Garp, grandfather of Luffy, Roger, father of Ace. He didn't do it for Polo. Maybe he'll do it later whenever we get the volume edits. But yeah, shoutouts to Polo, man. I think that's freaking sick. Polo stronger than Kyo. Man, Polo is a monster. He's gonna be the right hand of Whitebeard. And funny enough, we don't know if he's actually dead or not. For all we know, Polo could still be alive today. Who's to say? Who's to say? His epithet? The father of the Phoenix. That goes kind of hard if you're Chinese. So, the next group we see is Ganzui, Stussy, and Gilbestar, a really strange trio. It kind of feels like the weakling trio of the Rocks Pirates. You know, like we have Usopp, Nami, and Chopper. This kind of gives off the same energy. I don't know why, because we know that Ganzui is kind of a fighter. But then again, Ganzui, Booger Bombs, Usopp, Exploding Star. Is there like a parallel there? No, surely not, right? Oh my god, maybe. Because Stussy is the science burglar, Nami's the cat burglar. Wait a minute. Maybe these three really are the weakling trio of the Rocks Pirates. But if you're in the Rocks Pirates, are you really a weakling? I don't know. Either way, though, I'm getting like lost in a tangent. We see that Ganzui is about to make it off God Valley, which is very shocking to me because we know that current day he's dead. And of course, you know, you could just die somewhere else, but I really thought he'd be cooked here. And he still has his legs. Shout out to Ganzui, man, keeping it 100 for now until he gets chopped into 50%. Gilbestar. He looks a lot younger in this panel, so it took me a second to realize it was actually him. But yes, Gilbestar is in the middle, and he actually has the Horo Horo no Mi, Perona's Devil Fruit. What the hell? Huh? What? Hold up. Okay? The confusion I was hit with when I saw this and heard about this was almost unparalleled, because while having Perona's Devil Fruit alone isn't crazy, because we know he dies and of course, you know, Perona gets a Devil Fruit, blah, 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 she's not born yet, that makes sense. But we gotta remember, Gilbestar has 4 arms. I thought that was because of the Hana Hana no Mi. Or maybe like some other weird devil fruit. But no, he has the Horo Horo. And you could say, oh, but Sai, you know, Thriller Bark, he has 4 arms. That's Hogback. Hogback gave him 4 arms. Sure, but hear me out. At God Valley, he had 4 arms. Not always. We've seen panels, like in this chapter, for example, where he has 2 arms. But there have been other panels where he has 4. Why? What is going on with that? Maybe he's a special race? Like, oh, he has a special race and he has the Horo Horo no Mi? Another theory I saw somebody talk about is that maybe, kind of like how Perona can make herself bigger, smaller through the Horo Horo no Mi, maybe he's doing the same. Like his real body is on a ship, and then because this is like an astral ghost projection, he can give himself extra arms. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I do enjoy that a lot. And also shout outs to the Horo Horo no Mi, because I do think this is a great fruit for him, because it is a callback to his one-shot manga written by Oda a long time ago, where Gilbestar was haunted by a ghost. And yeah, here we have it. He has a ghost alongside him. Cool. Yeah, no, shout out to Gil, man. Again, absurd. We got no barbell stuff, considering we got this random tidbit. Next chapter, though, God Valley isn't over. Maybe barbell will come in soon. Next character we spend time with is, of course, everybody's favorite, Monkey D. Dragon. He's finally lost it, man. He's finally snapped. He's hopped on board a Navy ship, and he's holding down what seems to be a Marine captain. He's got the gun pointed at him, and he says, "Hey, do you condone what is happening here?" They're like, "Dragon, stop it. What are you doing?" Dragon says, "Bring those survivors on board. We're saving them too. If anybody's got a problem with that, I'll execute them." And we turn around and we see that there are actually civilians off the coast of the island. Civilians that could actually be Davy clansmen, or maybe even special races that the Celestial Dragons wanted to get rid of. Dragon is saving them, but it is somewhat nearsighted. And I'm just saying that for now. Of course, I think this will be an interesting plot point later, but the Marines are right. They say, "Hey, Dragon, this will not end well for you." Dragon says, "Bring it on then." And that's awesome. I love the determination from Dragon, but I do wonder how this is all going to fall out afterwards, because Dragon is pointing a gun at a superior. Even if you save those civilians, who's to say that the Celestial Dragons don't just execute them later? Who's to say that they're still not considered property and they're taken in later? And then Dragon, like, his position within the Marines, he could get dismissed here or just straight up executed. I would love to see how he gets out of this situation. I would personally love it if Garp showed up later and he's like, "Hey, that's my son. We're saving these slaves. Nobody's going to say a damn thing about it. I am a vice admiral." You know, I would love if Garp just flexed his tire like that for his boy and for the slaves on this island. And we do know that Garp has that compassion for these guys. Garp showed up and he said, "Hey, what the hell is this?" You know, he did not condone what's happening here either, just like Dragon. So I would love that father and son bonding after we leave here. So like I said, great plot point. Excited to see what happens next. So we go on and we see that Saturn-Imu left the island. Yeah. All right. Super silly. You know, the ship is sailing away, and Saturn is just like mean mugging the island, and Imu's like, "Oh, that island never existed. Is that clear?" And we see that the records kept by G11, the Marine base, and Cyberpol 6 concerning the top secret level S special mission on God Valley are sparse. The names of the participants of the human hunt were purged. Little is recorded regarding the site of the incident God Valley. Information regarding the island's whereabouts, size, and population were also purged. The number of casualties remains unknown to this very day. Crazy stuff. We do not know if it ends here, because Imu's saying, "Oh, you know, this island, it needs to be erased. We're going to erase it." Does he simply mean via record book? Or is the island actually going to get nuked by a Lelucia type weapon? Because based on this chapter, it could really be either or. And I still like the theory, mind you, that God Valley becomes Thriller Bark, especially because both mountains of God Valley by the end of this chapter are obliterated. Right? That was the main thing about God Valley being Thriller Bark. Like, oh, they look so different. How could that actually be the case? Well, I mean, the mountains are gone, right? The mountains are actually kaput. So it could become Thriller Bark, and that's how it also disappeared. Or, you know, Imu could just destroy it later. We will see about that one. The problem with a Lelucia type event is simply the fuel source, the Mother Flame. Because to our knowledge, Imu doesn't have that right now. He has to wait for Vegapunk to create it. Unless they have just like leftover Mother Flame from the Void Century and they're like, "Oh, let's use the remaining bits on here." That could be possible. But yeah, we will see. That's one thing I'm really excited to see next week. Or should I say the week after, because there's a break week. Also, speaking of the Mother Flame, the anime finally got to the Mother Flame reveal. And that flame is purple. Hey, go back to all the fan colorings. You know, we had white, we had blue, we had yellow. There were so many different variations of how we thought the Mother Flame would look. But lo and behold, it is indeed purple. And I have like a personal theory on this. You can disagree with it. That's totally fine. But I would not be shocked at this point if Luffy's final power-up makes him purple. I know. Ew, purple. I gotta hate that color. I like purple. I mean, hell, look at my channel icon. It's freaking purple. You know, purple is my middle name. Not really. I don't know where to go with that one. There were theories back in the day that Luffy would eat the Mother Flame, or that Luffy's flames would mimic the Mother Flame, and I believe that now more than ever. And the reason why is because it's purple. Luffy's Devil Fruit, the Sun God Nika Fruit, the Nika Nika no Mi, or the Gumu Gumu no Mi, whatever you want to call it, that is a purple Devil Fruit. So it's like, wait a minute, like, was that always going to be the case? Like, maybe after White, he does turn purple. Like, that is his Gear 6, or, you know, full Zoan Sun God mode. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then, of course, all we really have to do is invert Luffy's colors when he's in Gear 5th. Because when he's in Gear 5th, his hair is white, his jacket is white, pretty much everything is white, except for the purple sash. His sash is purple. So it's like, yo, like maybe full Sun God Nika mode is all purple, or maybe like purple mixed with white. I think that'd be freaking awesome. And I think lore-wise, that kind of makes sense, because the Mother Flame is supposed to be an inextinguishable flame, an infinite power source. So, I mean, hell, Luffy becoming that when it's fire, yeah, that makes sense. He's literally the Sun God. So yeah, purple Luffy, I'm not pushing that out of the cards. I think that's a pretty solid theory. I think people just will not like the color purple, so that's, yeah, that's whatever. Also, speaking of purple, weird tangent, I have a gaming channel. I know, sorry, self-promo time. If you guys have the chance, if you have the time to check it out, I have a gaming channel over here on the side called Syvduck, Syvduck. I also stream on Twitch, but the gaming channel is where I post all my gameplay clips. I'm currently playing Dispatch. I just caught up, so if you want to check out my playthrough on that, feel free to hop on there. I talk about random stuff every other day, as well as play horror games all there as well. So please, give that a follow. Give it a subscribe. I'd really freaking appreciate it. So now, back to the chapter. We see that Garp and Roger have a little conversation about Imu. Roger says, hey, did you know that the government had ties to that black monster? It seems like an affront to justice, Garp. And Garp says, I'm there with you. And, you know, a lot of people kind of skip over that line, but I put a lot of weight on it. Garp does not consider that monster justice. Brother, all the admirals have their own sense of justice. I would love it if all the admirals, you know, maybe this is just fan head canon, but I would love it if all the admirals turned on Imu by the end of the series. I do not think it's that crazy to think that the Marines and the WG will eventually split, but I could see Akainu easily looking at Imu and saying, yeah, that's not justice, right? Akainu already has a very disrespectful tone in Japanese to the Gorosei. Brother, imagine anybody else seeing Imu. They're like, yeah, I don't F with that either. Let's all just kind of leave. And then Garp kind of talks about the future of the Marines too. Roger's like, hey, do you want to leave the Navy and join us? And Garp says, hell no. If I quit, who will protect the Marines? Garp is also separating the two. He's separating the WG and the Marines. So I think the Marines are primed to split from Imu eventually. I don't think it'll be easy. I don't think that's going to be like next chapter, but by the end of the series, I do think they will disavow that monster once they realize that Imu actually exists. Because right now, you know, like nobody really knows. So once this is all public, once the world figures out that the WG is sinking the world and killing everybody and that there's actually a ruler, yeah, I'm excited to see how the admirals will actually react to all of this. They go on and they talk about Haki, which I think is just hilarious. Roger says, hey, Garp, it's all about mass. And Garp says, mass? The hell are you talking about? Roger says, Armament Haki can normally counter Devil Fruit abilities, and I'm using Conqueror's Haki coding to boot, so there's no way my attacks are doing nothing. And Garp says, well, it's because he's also using Conqueror's Haki to guard himself. It's not a surprise that it all just cancels each other out. Roger says, exactly. Garp says, if we don't overcome that, the damage won't go through. We'll lose sooner or later if we keep trading blows like this. So we can't simply match that monster. The next time we use Conqueror's Haki, we should channel all of our mass into it. Here's the thing. What the hell is mass? Yeah. When they say mass, do they just mean like backbone or, ooh, put your back into it? Like, give it 110%, put more Haki there? Or are they talking about like soul energy, extra power? I'm not too sure. I would love to see more translations en masse. But yeah, they're speaking of mass as if it's like the next level of power. Like, oh, he's using Conqueror's Haki plus 2 times mass. Like, that's just silly. Right now, I just do view it as like, oh, put some extra oomph into it, give it your all, really stand your ground with that attack. That's how I view it, but I am definitely open to more interpretations. They go on and they say, do not worry about how crippling the aftermath of our attack will be. If we land this, it'll take all 3 of us out of commission, but if we don't land it, it's also all over. We're cooked. They say, hey, Rocks, I don't know if there's any words that'll comfort you at this point. I don't even know what happened to you, but I do know this. I can feel your frustration, and it's so sad, brother. We see Rocks, he's still crying. The tears are dripping down, and it's just awful. Like, we don't know what Rocks can see. Does he know about Eris and Teach? Hell, and even if he did, does he know that they made it off the island, or does he think he killed them? This is an awful time for Rocks, and not just that. His family, minus Eris and Teach, already died. They kicked the bucket. His homeland is destroyed. His crew is gone. This man literally has nothing right now. It's awful. Roger and Garp, they do sympathize with Rocks, and I wish we got more of their relationship off on the side. Like, we know that Garp met with Rocks in the past. We know that Roger and Rocks met a lot of times in the past as well. I wish we could have seen the happier moments leading up to this. Roger, it looks like he's hiding his tears. He's rubbing his eyes like me during like freaking sad movies. Garp butts in and he's like, hey, this is no time for tears, you dolt. And we see them both winding up their ultimate attacks. I love the way Roger's doing it. He's over here just twirling his blade really fast. You see the Conqueror's Haki spinning as well. And his attack is called Kagutsuchi Ace. Brother. Kagutsuchi is the Shinto god of fire. And then Garp's attack is Infinitum Explosion. And we see him also like punching the air, kind of like Luffy doing a Gatling. And bro, these attacks land and Rocks is done. Roger's attack, it seemingly cuts Rocks in like a bunch of different directions. Like you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 slashes all like spread out. It's awesome. And with Garp, not only do you have like all the fists flying around with Haki, but there's fire behind it. And I think that does actually mean something. Roger's last attack is fire-based. Garp's attack is fire-based. I think fire might be the key, which I think, thematically makes sense with Sun God Nika being the warrior of liberation, and Sun God is all about fire, right? And what I find so interesting about this is that so far, Luffy, while in Gear 5th, has utilized 0 fire-based abilities. In Gear 2nd, we saw Red Hawk. Gear 3rd, we saw Red Rock. Gear 4th, I don't think we have anything for Gear 4th. Maybe I'm like forgetting something. But yeah, either way, I do think that a fire-based ability is going to be key. And this could be a great hint at that. Garp with the Fire Fist, Roger with the Shinto God of Fire attack. Beautiful stuff. And also, Garp's naming for that too, Infinitum Explosion. Freaking cool, dude. And then, of course, Roger going with the Ace attack and, Ace, Fire Guy, Sword named Ace, Sun named Ace. Beautiful stuff. Cinema. So we see that after these attacks land, we get the narrator box popping in yet again, like a paid actor, and they say the disbanding of the chaotic crew led by Rocks D Xebec will leave an undeniable echo. The Rocks Pirates destabilized an entire era, and the tremors of their legacy would continue to shake the world. End of chapter. Break next week. Oh, yep, that is the end of Rocks. And with it, is that the end of God Valley? Personally, I don't think so. At bare minimum, God Valley goes on for 1 more chapter. Maximum 2 chapters. I've kind of like wish-washed on that a lot. I think like last week I said, oh, maybe 5 chapters left. But now that we see that the fight is over, yeah, 1 or 2 chapters is what I'm giving it. I think we still need to see Garp become the hero. I would love it if we saw maybe Scopper and really run into the God Knights, because we know that Scopper and Sommers, they've met in the past. Of course, that could be post-God Valley, like maybe they go up to the Holy Land, or maybe there's another island they meet at. But yeah, Scopper and Sommers, we need to see their confrontation. Maybe it's here. God Knight update in general. Garling becoming the champion of God Valley. Is that really just because he hunted the most slaves? Or will he show up afterwards when Roger and Garp can't move and he starts effing around? And then, of course, like, how do they bust the island? Does the island even get busted? And then, of course, there's Rocks D Xebec. While he was taken down in this chapter, I don't think he's dead yet. I think he will come back to his senses for a little bit, and maybe he drops some lore about the Davy clan. Maybe he tells Garp and Roger about that black monster they were referring to. I think there's a lot we could still get from this island. We're not done yet. Are we nearing the end? Yes. But we're not done, in my opinion. But alas, that is it for today, guys. That's enough of my rambling. Let me know what you thought about this chapter down below. I'd really freaking appreciate it. And of course, in the next couple of days, because there is a break week, we'll come back with the post-game video and read through the comment section. And of course, I'll be holding a multitude of polls here on this channel, and I would love your guys' inputs on all the God Valley questions aside from that as well, just for funsies, so that we can fill up the break week void. And you know, if you want an example of the polls I'm holding right now, 2 very hard-hitting ones that people have been asking for years and years. But 11 hours ago, I asked, who would win in a bloodlusted battle? The fake Straw Hats or the Black Cat Pirates? And then who would win pre-time skip? The Moria crew or CP9? Those are questions everybody on the block are asking about, and I held the polls for them, and I'll go over the results later. But yes, until then, you guys take care. Namaste. Happy Hanukkah. I'm just talking, man. I don't know. Get me out of here, coach. Peace out. Where's Garling, Oda? He's the champion of God Valley. He shanks his dad. Shamrock. We just saw his VA got announced. But guess what? Where's Shamrock's dad, though? Who cares about Shamrock, man? Where's Garling? The champion, dude! Did the narrator lie? Was it just from the perspective of the Celestial Dragons? Where is the guy? He's been regenerating for a while now. Bro, Sommers got up in like 1 chapter. What about Garling? Surely, right? Right? Dude. If we get to the next chapter and Garling's on that boat, the reason I didn't talk about Garling earlier in this video when I was crashing out about Barbell, it's not because I don't care about Garling. No, it's because I know deep down, I know deep down Oda's gonna bring it. He's gonna deliver, right? He's gonna get up, and let me tell you, next chapter, he's gonna 1v1 Roger. Roger won't be able to move. It's gonna be so beautiful, boys. Yeah, God Valley isn't done yet. It's still going. Just wait. Any minute now, Garling's gonna get up and he's gonna show us why he's the best. Who knows? Maybe he'll even follow Whitebeard onto a ship and scar him. Oh yeah. And when you think about it, when does God Valley truly end? I'd argue God Valley is still going on in the current story because we're feeling the after effects. Garling, it's never too late to claim that title. My guy. As a defender of the Holy Knights, these past couple of weeks been pretty rough. You know, all we needed was 1 panel. Oda just needed to give us 1 panel. That's all it was. Is that asking for too much, Oda? It almost feels like a personal attack. And I know it isn't, right? I mean, it's One Piece. It's Oda. He doesn't know who the hell I am. But it's crazy that the 2 characters, okay, 1 character and then a faction of characters that I care about, the only people on the island I'm just like holding up to a different standard, they're just not showing up. They aren't. I can't even argue against that. They're literally not here. What's happening? You know, I love Garp and Roger and Rocks, you know, but they're standard, right? They're cookie cutter, likable guys. I wanted to be like the dark horse. Well, Garling, I always kind of liked him ever since he was introduced. But I was like, yo, like if I had to root for somebody, it's the God Knights, man. Brand new faction, yeah. They have Barbell, yeah, fucking Catfish, man. I live in Oklahoma. But where are they? Where are they, Oda? 6-7. 6-7, 6-7, 6-7.